Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast 5, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, though, we still keep it to 5 minutes, but we're going to pick out the biggest business story of the week, the most remarkable story, a sleeper story, one that's flying under the radar a wee bit, and our favourite story of the week. Let's jump into it. There's really only one bigger story this week, wasn't there?
Yeah, interest rates, both domestically and in the US. The next move from the Reserve Bank will be down, not up. And that's likely to happen at the end of this year. That's what we found out this week. According to the Bureau of Statistics, the annual rate of inflation hit a 2-year low of 4.1% during the December quarter. The quarterly rate was 0.6%. Times that by 4, you get 2.5% or 2.4%. That is right in the Reserve Bank's target range. Now, the Reserve Bank's preferred measure of underlying inflation, the trimmed mean, it takes out volatile items. It rose 4.2%. That was down from 5.1%. The economy is slowing. It showed 65,000 jobs in December and retail sales tumbled at 2.7% in December as well. That's the biggest slowdown since the pandemic. The next move in rates locally will be down. We found that out this week. Part of the same story, Chair of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, dashed expectations of a rate cut next month. He said based on current data, he doesn't think that it's likely that interest rates will be cut in March, adding that's not the Fed's base case. They will be cut later in the year, just not next month. Huge week for interest rates around the world.
Yeah, certainly was. Most remarkable story, Sean. I've got a nomination for this one because I think there is something quite remarkable about a company hitting a market valuation of $3 trillion US. And in the last week, it was Microsoft, and it joined Apple in what was a very exclusive club, became even more exclusive then when Microsoft actually passed Apple and Apple slipped back. Microsoft has had a great run of late. This week it posted its strongest revenue growth since 2022. It's riding this wave of AI excitement at the moment. It's putting AI into all of its products. It's seeing a big surge in demand for cloud computing. And that, of course, matters for investors because nearly 30% of the S&P 500 is now made up of just 7 companies. But $3 trillion US, that is worth more than the value of all of Australia's superannuation funds combined. It is almost hard to comprehend just how much money that is.
For this category, quick shout out to Elon Musk. A Delaware judge this week struck out his $55 billion pay packet saying it's excessive. Surely not. The ruling will be appealed, but it's a really interesting story. It comes more than 5 years after the EV's co-founder was granted the largest executive compensation plan in history. It was based on options. They said, can you hit these targets, which were fanciful? Market cap of $650 million US, bigger than General Motors. Guess what? He did it. Suddenly, he's owed $51.5 billion in options. The chair of that company, an Australian woman called Robin Denholm, didn't come out of it real well. The US judge said that life-changing wealth for Ms. Denholm coloured her thinking, shall we say, Michael. Amazing story.
Yeah, certainly is. Now, for the sleeper story, Sean, we both picked stories that aren't really sleepers as such because they're getting plenty of attention, but it's more that we don't know what the consequences are going to be yet.
That's right. My story is the fact that more than 50 countries around the world are holding elections this year, affecting about 4 billion people, half the globe's population. Major implications for financial markets and the global economy. The most problematic, funnily enough, will be the US election at the end of the year. We've also got the Brits going to the polls late in the year, probably. In June, we have India going to the polls. Narendra Modi, he's likely to be returned. Investors will like that idea. Already this year, we've had votes in Bangladesh and Taiwan. This month, we have votes in Indonesia and Pakistan. They're the 4th and 5th most populous nations. In March, Russians and Iranians vote. We have South Africans, Mexicans, Croatians, European Union members all going to the polls this year. Quite amazing, simply because we don't know what the outcome of all these elections will be and how that affects financial markets.
Yeah. And look, mine was the fact that we've had this week China's property debt crisis, claiming its biggest victim, property giant Evergrande, to go into liquidation. Now, this company has about $500 billion US of liabilities. It first defaulted on a bond payment like more than 2 years ago. So it's been very slow moving. We've known it's coming. But the problem here is that the Chinese property market is so big and so important, and the Chinese economy is so important to the rest of the world that we just don't yet know what the fallout's going to be. All we know is that the fallout is going to be enormous. So it is kind of a bit of a sleeper story at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with that. Can I tell you my favourite story?
Please do.
The local share market hit a new record high this week. The better-than-expected inflation figures we heard of earlier in the week pushed the S&P ASX 200 to a new high of 7,681 points. Some of the sectors that have struggled, tech and real estate, for example, are doing better. The banks are booming. Iron ore companies are benefiting from reasonably high, stable prices. Healthcare companies and insurers have rebounded. Okay, the retail picture's a bit mixed. No one wants lithium or nickel producers. But still, the ASX 200 is up 12 or 13% since late October last year. Great story and my favourite story for the week, Michael.
Mine too, Sean. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast. Join us online on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook and X. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed.